Happy day 2 of government shutdown. Yes, my friend, our government has been shut down for 2 days. Why? Because the Democrats want to give your money. Happy day 2 of our government shutdown. Yes, my friend, our government has been shut down for 2 days. Apparently, the Democrats and the Republicans cannot come to an agreement. The Democrats apparently want to give free healthcare to illegal immigrants. Yeah, your money, the money that you paid in your taxes, these people, these Democrats want to give it away to illegal immigrants. Do you really want your government to spend the money that you worked for to give help to people who are not legally here when there are enough people here already who got here legally who also need medical help? Like, what the hell is up with that? Apparently, there is something different about this government shutdown than from our previous government shutdowns. Since 1976, we have had 20 government shutdowns. Isn't that insane? I think the last one was in 2018. Let's watch the video to see what is the difference between this government shutdown and our other 19 ones. Let's see.
Shutdowns are actually a bit more common than probably perceived. We've had 20 of these shutdowns. It's often just political brinksmanship.
I think is really simply a response.
Okay, what is a brinkmanship? Hang on. I'm Mexican. I'm legally here. So let's see. I don't know what brinksmanship is. Like, I've never heard that word before. Brinksmanship defined. Let's see.
Brinkmanship.
Brinkmanship. It's not brinksmanship. Brinkmanship. The art or practice of pursuing a dangerous policy to the limits of safety before stopping, especially in politics. Let's see. Brinkmanship is the practice of taking a dangerous situation to the edge of disaster or catastrophe in order to achieve a desired outcome, especially in politics or negotiations. It involves pushing a confrontation to its most extreme point, government shutdown, hoping to force the opposing side to back down and yield concessions for fear of the consequences. High stakes practice. It is a tactic that deliberately courts disaster but aims to avoid it at the last possible moment. Okay, so that's cool. That sounds like strategic. You know what I mean? Like, I had no idea what brinkmanship was. So the shutting down the government is a tactic to push the Democrats to back down, or what? I don't know. Let's find out. Let's find out a little bit more.
To showing that they're willing to fight Trump.
The president's doing kabuki theater. He's threatening to fire a bunch of employees if we don't keep the government open.
Lawmakers in Congress have not reached an agreement on federal spending for the fiscal year 2026. Okay. As a result, the federal government is expected
Democrats are really trying to make this fight about health care, but Republicans are betting that they won't be successful, that people will just see Democrats as holding up a shutdown, potentially leading to a large-scale federal layoff.
Shutdowns. Let's see.
The fiscal year starts from October 1st and runs all the way until September 30th of next year. So every year on September 30th or around this time, there's a question whether or not the government is going to be funded.
This is so interesting.
To give them every opportunity to vote for a clean CR.
For Republicans, it's a time to show that Democrats are blocking the way to keeping the government funded, trying to paint them as unreasonable.
We're spending about $7 trillion this year. Now, we're only talking about 25% of the budget, which is the discretionary spending. Obamacare is the root cause of all these problems. It is skyrocketing healthcare costs, insurance costs, and all Democrats want to do is throw more money at it. We want to bring down healthcare costs in a reasonable way.
Well, Democrats say the only way they are ever going to give Republicans the votes they need to keep the government open is through something on healthcare.
And what we know is that failure to extend those tax credits is going to see insurance costs rise for over 20 million people, and about 4 million people lose their health insurance entirely.
For the government to avoid a shutdown, you need 60 senators to vote for approving any sort of stopgap or funding bill.
You know, I was taught this in school, but I remember it vaguely. I really don't remember it clearly. Like, I'm supposed to know this stuff, you know. When I was in school, I didn't understand most of the things because I didn't speak English. And let's see. Yeah.
John Fetterman, who has come out and said he doesn't think that a government shutdown is ever a good idea, that it ever helps people, and he has come out and supported the Republicans' legislation. But at this point, you don't have any other Democrats who have done so.
My guess is we probably will shut the government down.
Surprise, it happened.
This shutdown is a little bit different because we're seeing something that we've never seen before, which is the federal government.
Okay, now let's see what the hell is a perlo. Because I'm not sure what the hell is a perlo. It almost sounds like parlo. Perlo. Hang on. Furlough with an F.
Furlough.
Furlough. Suspension or discharge of a worker or workers on account of economic conditions or shortage of work, especially when temporary. Okay. So it's like a temporary layoff?
We're seeing something that we've never seen before, which is the federal government not just saying that they will furlough federal employees, but they will actually fire and lay off federal employees who are considered non-essential.
Oh.
So the Office of Management and Budget,
That's tough. So furlough is like a temporary discharge.
run by Russell Vogt, came out with a memo to agencies just the other week saying, hey, as you furlough employees, consider whether or not you really need those roles and consider shrinking down your agencies so it's only essential employees, as well as programs and agencies that are in line with the president's agenda. Now, he didn't go into detail about exactly which agencies those would be, but we can guess based on what the priorities of the Trump administration have been. Probably means things like Customs and Border Protection, ICE, military, policing would all maintain funding levels and staff, or maybe things like, say, the Department of Education would be more at risk for cuts. Democrats have basically come out and said that this is nothing more than an intimidation.
It's crazy to think that education is going to be like one of the first things that's going to be cut off. You know what I mean? Like you would think that would be always on.
Tactic. They point out there have already been massive reductions in the federal workforce and that Russell Vogt doesn't need a government shutdown to ask agencies to lay off individuals. Meanwhile, you have seen the Supreme Court bring some initial rulings out that lay a path for the Trump administration to fire more workers. So there is more.
What does that say? Supreme Court allows Trump to proceed with large-scale government agency staff cuts, reorganizations. Okay.
Of a risk here if a shutdown does happen because you could see a massive shrinkage in the size of government.
Those federal workers would be certainly impacted in a major way. If I look at the overall, economy, we're talking about 160 million people employed, over 160 million employed, and the federal workers, the ones that were potentially furloughed, is probably about 800,000.
Those are a lot.
Big debate about the employment picture and inflation, and
those are a lot of employees, dude. Oh my God.
If we go into a government shutdown, some of that data releases, even the upcoming employment report, would potentially not come out. So all of a sudden you have the Fed heading into a meeting with less information, which is already a difficult decision. I mean, I think what would happen is that the Fed would start looking even more on outside private data, but it certainly complicates things at a time where there's a lot of tension in the Fed's mandate and that employment versus the inflation side.
I mean, obviously, it's a big deal for the government employees that are furloughed or fired, but from a broader economic perspective, not so much.
The economy tends to take a little bit of a short-term hit during the shutdown, and then there tends to be a rebound thereafter as well. So you're seeing the kind of the same picture play out in financial markets. When you look back historically, leading up, there tends to be a little bit of volatility, but during the actual shutdown, the market has actually been about flat.
When it comes to the FAA, airlines, you usually see longer lines for planes when a government shutdown is going on. The U.S. Travel Association estimated that during a shutdown,
that's so interesting.
About $1 billion for the travel industry has lost a week. That's from flights, that's from rail, that's from people not visiting U.S. parks and national monuments, which are closed during a shutdown. Would it be?
Yeah, I heard that the national parks are already closed. Let's see if there are any if they're already closed. National parks closed during shutdown. Let's see. So AP News said national parks will remain generally open during the shutdown, but Liberty Bell doors are closed.
I think in general, I actually.
It's loading the ad. Oh my God, how annoying. Dude, there are so many ads loading that my computer isn't like responding. It forced me to play the ad.
As it's impacting me personally, I think it's the right thing to do for the Democratic Party. I personally think what they're fighting for, which is healthcare really for millions of people. I pay for my own healthcare, so I know what it feels like to have health premiums go up. If the Democrats were to proceed and find some negotiation without getting the healthcare for millions, they would just be signing up for a government that the people don't want.
I am not for it. I am totally against it. I think that both sides of our government need to come together and stop this ridiculous fight. There is no reason for our government to shut down.
This concept is entirely new to me, that the government between the legislation and executive can find some differences and they can shut down. So this concept is totally alien to me coming from an Indian perspective.
That's cool.
I guess there's something new to the American way of governance.
Well, but no one's told us anything really. We'll just see what happens.
We just heard it on the news this morning, that's the first we've heard about it.
Yeah.
Obviously we've heard about people, government workers not getting paid as well, not getting the paychecks.
Which is dreadful.
Oh, so I heard that some government employees have to work and then not get paid? Is that even legal? Let me see that. Because I literally heard that. Okay, so we're gonna finish that video, then we're gonna watch this one, and then we're gonna go back. Let's finish the one about the national parks first.
Really bad that, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, well, we are really surprised because you see the barrier there, and we are tourists, we didn't know about it, and for us it's really special. In Europe you couldn't see it at all, so yeah, it's a surprise. Yeah.
That sucks.
It's frustrating that they're playing politics in DC and basically just they're not doing their job is to pass a budget, and if they're not doing their job, what are they doing down there?
Yeah.
You know, if I just decided I didn't want to do my job, I wouldn't have a job anymore.
Exactly. Okay, so we're done with this one.
And the U.S. government is shut down as the White House and Congress weren't able to reach a funding deal. Both parties not even anywhere close to an agreement.
NBC5's Lisa Chavarria live in the control center for us this morning. Lisa, I know we just arrived at this point, but any indication on how long the shutdown could even last?
I mean, that's a great question, Michelle and Everett. And at this point, that's what's still unclear this morning. So this has happened before.
Look at her face. She looks like genuinely concerned.
During President Trump's first term, that shutdown was back in 2018, and it was the longest ever at 34 days. Now, for this time around, there are more than 2 million federal workers that will not be paid during all of this, and the president is still threatening mass layoffs. The two parties failed to come to a deal after 2 votes just hours before the midnight deadline today. Senators will be back at it this morning trying to pass the same stopgap bills. As for how this will impact the American people, the Congressional Budget Office says about 750,000 employees will be furloughed each day. Other essential workers like federal law enforcement officers, members of the military, air traffic controllers, and TSA agents will be forced to work without pay.
Did you hear that? Forced to work without pay. Is that even legal, dude? Can the government do that? How are you going to work without getting paid? That makes no sense. Are you legally forced? That's insane.
Arms, weapons, stuff like that, and you can't miss, right? So you don't want officers with added stress of how am I going to pay my bills.
Local lawmakers are also responding this morning.
Look, I don't believe that whole thing with employees not getting paid. Why? Because imagine if you're there because you have to be legally and you're not getting paid, you're gonna retaliate and do your job mediocrely or mess up somewhere purposefully. Because you're mad, because you're resentful, because you're not getting paid. There is no way that's legal. There's no way, I doubt it. I doubt that's even legal. I doubt that's even possible, dude. No way, that's slavery. No freaking way.
Partisanship aside and come back to the table to work on a bipartisan solution that meets the needs of the American people and gets our government back to work for them. Republican Congressman Mike Bost wrote on social media, quote, "This shutdown creates uncertainty for the American people at a time when we can least afford it. Rest assured, I am committed to doing my part to ensure Southern Illinoisans get the help they need from their government and in full as soon as possible." And we should also note that ICE posted on X saying that this shutdown will not be changing border enforcement, but the government agency didn't clarify what, if any, impact this could have on the increased immigration.
It's like, the workers that do the customs, they're gonna get paid. Like, there's no way they're gonna work for free. Hell no.
Enforcement during Operation Midway Blitz that we've been seeing here in Chicago and the suburbs. Everett.
We'll continue to monitor this and see what happens.
Imagine being able to...
Okay, let's see. So we're done with this one. Now let's watch the next one.
Smart for the government to avoid having to do shutdowns by automatically continuing funding when they get to this point? Probably. But much like the fiscal cliff and raising the debt ceiling, it takes away this key point of leverage that really forces lawmakers to sit down, come to the table, and hash out an agreement. Much like the debt ceiling and the debt limit, it's something that Congress is just going to continue to wrangle over year after year.
Wow. Okay, so now, do workers actually not get paid? There is no way. You guys heard that right here, right? They said it right in the news, dude. There is no way that's a thing. Government. Here we go. Dude, here we go. Let's see. So this is the U.S. Representative Ami Bera. What did he say? A government shutdown occurs when Congress is unable to pass the funding bills, known as appropriations, that keep federal agencies running into the next fiscal year, okay, which begins on October 1st. Because no agreement was reached at midnight on September 30th, 2025, a partial shutdown is now underway as of 12:01 a.m. on October 1st, okay? While some essential services continue during the shutdown, others are currently disrupted or delayed, okay? Dude, some government workers are required to work without pay. It's right here. Look, congressional district is home to nearly 5,000 federal employees. At this time, it remains unclear how many of these employees are temporarily furloughed, required to work without pay, or subject to layoffs as a part of a reduction in force initiatives by the Trump administration. Guys, I had no idea that government workers were required I had no idea that this could happen. There's people that have to work and not get paid. Okay, so these are the things that can happen, or that typically happen. A government shutdown, whether partial or full, impacts a variety of services and programs. During the 2018-19 partial shutdown, the Food and Drug Administration suspended routine inspections, increasing public health risks. The National Park Service stopped trash collection and road repairs, creating unsanitary conditions and unsafe roads, while some national parks and museums closed entirely. Additionally, over 86,000 immigration court hearings were canceled, exacerbating existing backlogs. The shutdown also threatened a temporary assistance for needy families program in some states, putting low-income families and children at risk. These disruptions illustrate how shutdowns can detrimentally affect public health services and society's most vulnerable members. You know, actually, this article by Mr. Ami Bera, MD, is so much more informative than anything else I have watched. Like reading, I guess to me, I guess I just read and it sticks to my mind. But this is making a lot more sense than everything else that we watched, because there are so many videos about everything that it's hard to believe anything that you see, even when it comes from the news. Like, notice how I didn't believe that there were actual government workers that were required to work without getting paid. So here we go. What government services and programs remain uninterrupted during a shutdown? During a government shutdown, essential services related to national security and public safety, okay? Like inpatient and emergency medical care, air traffic control, law enforcement, border security, disaster aid, and power grid maintenance. Continue, though they may face disruptions. For instance, during the 2018-2019 shutdown, air traffic controllers worked without pay, causing widespread delays and even a temporary halt of incoming flights. At LaGuardia Airport, services independent of annual appropriation bills such as the U.S. Postal Service and programs like Social Security and Medicare also continue, but may experience interruptions. For example, during the fiscal year 1996 shutdown, most Social Security Administration staff were initially furloughed, leading to delays in services like public inquiries and benefit claims processing, even though Social Security benefits remain funded. You know, a lot of these words are so essential because it's not a word that you use like in normal. Like, I'm gonna go get my I'm gonna get like furlough my dishes. You know, it's like it is just such a word that is not used in any other context. And if you are not a native speaker, you're not gonna know what furlough is. I need to look it up again just to make sure. Furlough, like that is a word for politics. You know what I mean? It's exclusive to politics or to economy. But furlough is a word that I never heard before. If I would have not looked it up, I would have no idea what any of this meant. You know what I mean? But yeah, look, I can't believe that people are forced to work without pay. or required to work without pay if their roles are deemed essential for public safety, dude. While Congress has traditionally approved retroactive payment for these employees once the government reopens, this does not prevent the immediate financial difficulties they face. Okay, yeah, so I am assuming that they are going to get paid once the government opens, but they work without pay at that point in time. Okay, well, that makes sense. See, that makes more sense. Here we go. So it says here, following the 2019 shutdown, Congress passed the Government Employee Fair Treatment Act of 2019, which provides immediate retroactive back pay of federal employees after a shutdown ends. During 2018-2019 partial government shutdown, around 2 million people were employed by the federal government. 380,000 of them were furloughed, and 420,000 worked without pay. Many delayed mortgage or credit card payments, risking late fees or loan defaults. Yeah, that's true. In 2013, there were over 2 million federal employees and about 850,000 furloughed during the shutdown. Government contractors, unlike federal employees, typically do not receive back pay after shutdowns. What? Government contractors? What? In the 2018-2019 shutdown, it's estimated that 4.1 million people worked under government contracts, though the exact number of these furloughed is unclear. At this time, it remains unclear how many federal employees have been temporarily furloughed, required to work without pay, or subject to layoffs as part of reduction in force initiatives by the Trump administration. There is no way that if you have a contract with the government, they just don't work because they're not gonna pay you. Like in the contract, the government is supposed to pay you money, unless there's a clause that says you have the risk of not being paid if you work during a government shutdown. That's freaking awful, dude. I had no idea any of that. This is so fascinating. So this is what it takes for the government shutdown to end. To end a government shutdown, Congress needs to pass, and the president must sign appropriations bills to fund the departments and agencies that have been shut down. The president does not have the power to end in a shutdown unilaterally. The funding bills follow the same legislative process as any other bill, requiring approval from both the House and Senate before the president can sign them into law. Okay, so what is the impact of a government shutdown on the public and U.S. economy? You know, honestly, reading this is so much better than watching it on video. Like, this is actually sticking. That is so strange. Shutdowns are detrimental to both the public who face service and program disruptions, and federal employees who are government shutdowns are detrimental to both the public who face service and program disruptions, and federal employees who are either furloughed or required to work without pay. Moreover, they pose a significant strain on government resources. The Office of Management and Budget, OMB, and federal agencies need to develop and implement shutdown plans, a process that requires substantial staff time and resources, potentially detracting from public services. Shutdowns also cause revenue losses, such as those from visitor fees or gift store sales where national parks close. Additionally, shutdowns negatively impact the economy. The Congressional Budget Office estimated that the 2018-19 shutdown cost of the U.S. economy $11 billion, mainly due to federal workers reducing their spending in response to lost pay. Notably, this decrease in spending may not rebound even after workers receive their back pay. Yeah, wow. Among others, the following federal facilities may be affected in the event of government shutdown: military bases, arsenals, depots, and federal armories; Veterans Affairs medical facilities; federal prisons and courthouses; national laboratories; national park system facilities; national forests, and other federally owned or managed lands; ports, including seaports, airports, and intermodal terminals that may host federal customs processing facilities or law enforcement; IRS facilities; law enforcement agencies like FBI, ATF, DEA, or CBP, General Federal Office buildings. My office remains open and will continue processing federal agency casework. Please know that some agencies may be slower to respond due to furloughs and staffing shortages. Wow, this is so clear. Who wrote this? This is so well written. Like whoever wrote this, like you can tell, like they know how to write. It's written so nicely. I love good grammar. It makes me feel so good. You know, it was a pleasure to read this. It was pleasant to read this. That's why I keep reading it. I forgot how much I love good grammar, dude. Okay, well, there you have it, guys. All of the details about the government shutdown. If this content is informative, helpful, or if it added any value to your life, please consider subscribing to the channel, dropping a like button, dropping a comment, or if you would like to show your support, you can become a member to the channel only for $4.99 a month. Or if you want to go above and beyond, say, in showing your support, please consider making a donation to my PayPal. There is a link to it in the description of the channel. Thank you so much, and I will see you later. Bye.